Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, when you sent in all those articles on oral health, I was super intrigued. It's not a connection you think about every day, how your mouth impacts your overall health, but clearly you're onto something.
Yeah, it is a connection that often gets overlooked. But the more we learn, the more we realize just how interconnected our bodies really are.
Okay, so let's get right into it. One stat from these articles really blew my mind. Did you know that almost half of all adults over 30 have periodontal disease?
It's true. And even crazier, it's the sixth most common disease in humans. We're talking about a lot of people dealing with this, and many probably don't even realize it.
That's a bit alarming, I'll admit. I've been guilty of slacking on flossing sometimes. But this really puts things in perspective. It's not just about a pretty smile, is it?
Absolutely not. Research suggests that periodontal disease is linked to some serious health problems, like heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and even cognitive impairment.
Wow, those are some serious conditions. It's a bit unsettling to think that something seemingly minor like gum disease could have such far-reaching effects. So how do we even get to this point, where we think of dental health as separate from overall health?
Well, historically, medicine and dentistry have been pretty siloed. There was a time when dentistry had a bit of a bad rap, like the Wild West of healthcare, unregulated practitioners, questionable methods. It wasn't exactly a respected field.
One of the articles even mentioned how the University of Maryland flat out rejected dentistry back in the 1800s. They didn't want to teach it to medical students.
That's right. It's amazing to see how far dentistry has come since then. But that historical separation has definitely had a lasting impact on how we view oral health.
It's like going to the dentist and going to your doctor, are two completely different worlds.
Exactly. And that's a problem because the more we learn, the more we see that neglecting one can impact the other.
Okay, so help me understand this connection better. How does something happening in my actually affect the rest of my body?
Let's start with periodontal disease. When you have this infection in your gums, it's not just contained to your mouth. Think of it like your gums are sending out an SOS signal to the rest of your body.
Okay, that makes sense. So what's happening when that signal goes out?
Well, when your gums are inflamed, your body releases these inflammatory chemicals. Think of them as little messengers. These messengers can travel throughout your system, potentially contributing to problems elsewhere.
One of the articles even mentioned bacteria from your mouth ending up in your bloodstream. Is that for real?
It's not just for real. It's actually a key part of this whole connection. When you have gum disease, the barrier between your mouth and your bloodstream weakens. It's like a security breach. That allows bacteria to slip into your circulation and travel to other parts of your body.
Okay, that is both fascinating and kind of disturbing. So these little bacteria are hitching a ride in my blood and wreaking havoc wherever they go.
Essentially, yes. For example, these bacteria can trigger inflammation in blood vessels, which increases your risk of heart attacks and strokes. And some studies even suggest they might be able to travel to the brain.
Hold on, are you saying that bacteria from my mouth could contribute to brain problems?
It's an area of active research, and there's still a lot to learn. But some studies have found a link between gum disease and a higher risk of Alzheimer's disease. So taking good care of your teeth could potentially play a role in protecting your brain health down the line.
Now, that is a game changer. It really makes you think twice about skipping that flossing session. But you mentioned earlier that the science isn't completely settled. What are some of the sticking points?
One of the biggest challenges is proving causation. It's easy to see a correlation between gum disease and various health conditions, but definitively saying one directly causes the other is much harder to prove.
Like that 2019 study we talked about, the one where treating periodontal disease didn't actually improve heart health or diabetes outcomes?
Yes. That study was eye-opening. It suggested that simply treating gum disease after it's taken hold may not be enough to reverse the damage. It really highlights the importance of prevention.
So while we might not have all the answers yet, there's enough evidence to suggest that we shouldn't ignore our oral health.
Exactly. It's like with anything else in your health. Prevention is key.
But what's so fascinating to me is that dentists could be on the front lines of detecting these bigger health problems. One article even mentioned a dentist who found a potential issue in a patient's gums. That turned out to be leukemia.
That's a great example of how dentists can be so much more than just tooth fixers. They have a unique window into your overall health. They can see signs of things like nutritional deficiencies, hormonal changes, even early indications of systemic diseases.
It's like they're health detectives. looking for clues in your mouth.
I love that analogy. And with better collaboration between dentistry and medicine, dentists could play an even more vital role in early detection and prevention.
And speaking of collaboration, it seems like there's a real push toward integrating dental care with general health care. One of the articles even mentioned the World Health Organization advocating for this.
It's a huge development when a global organization like the WHO recognizes the importance of oral health. It really elevates the conversation. They're essentially saying, hey, world, let's stop treating the mouth like it's some separate entity and start seeing it as part of the whole.
That's a powerful message. It seems like things are starting to change, even here in the U.S. What are some of the exciting things happening to bridge that gap between dentistry and medicine?
Well, there are some amazing initiatives popping up. For example, the American Academy for Oral Systemic Health is dedicated to raising awareness about this connection. And then there's the National Network of Healthcare Hygienists, which is training dental hygienists to work within healthcare systems.
So instead of being confined to dental offices, these hygienists are going out into hospitals and clinics and spreading the word.
Exactly. They're like ambassadors for oral health. But perhaps the most exciting trend is the development of integrated dental and medical clinics. Like the One Pacific Dental Services is opening with Memorial Care.
I read about that, the one-stop-shop approach, right? I love the idea of having my doctor and dentist in the same place. It just makes sense.
It's not just convenient for patients, it also creates a more collaborative environment for doctors and dentists. They can easily consult with each other and get a more holistic picture of the patient's health.
But setting up a clinic like that must be pretty complex. You need doctors and dentists who are willing to work together. Plus, you have to figure out the whole electronic health record situation.
It's definitely a challenge, but it's one that healthcare systems are increasingly willing to tackle. They're realizing that this integrated approach can ultimately lead to better patient outcomes and lower costs in the long run.
So it's a win-win for everyone. It's all about moving away from that fragmented approach to healthcare and embracing a more holistic model.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's really at the heart of this whole conversation, recognizing that the mouth is a part of the body, not some separate entity.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah.
But all this talk about bacteria and inflammation has me wondering, what can we actually do to protect our oral health?
That's the million-dollar question, and you might be surprised by how simple the answer is. But we'll get to that after a quick break. Stay tuned.
All right, we're back and ready to dive into the million-dollar question. What can we actually do to protect our oral health?
I'm all ears.
We might be surprised. It all comes down to the basics. Brushing, flossing, and those regular dental checkups.
Okay, I knew you were going to say that. But honestly, it's easy to let those habits slide when life gets hectic. What would you say to someone who thinks, I skipped flossing once, what's the big deal?
I get it. We've all been there. But think about it this way. Those few minutes you spend brushing and flossing are a tiny investment in your long-term health. It's like putting money in a health savings account. Okay, I like that analogy. You're saying small, consistent actions now can add up to big rewards later.
Exactly. And just like a financial advisor helps you manage your money, regular dental visits can help prevent major problems down the road. It's way easier to address things early on than to deal with a major crisis later, right?
Makes sense. It's like those annoying oil changes for your car. You might not want to do them, but they prevent way bigger issues down the line.
Exactly. So we've got the foundation, brushing, flossing, and checkups. But let's go beyond that. What other lifestyle factors play a role in a healthy mouth?
Well, diet always seems to be a big factor when it comes to health. Does that apply here too?
Absolutely. You are what you eat. And that applies to your teeth and gums too. Sugar is a major culprit in tooth decay. So cutting back on sugary drinks and snacks can make a real difference.
So swapping out that afternoon soda for a glass of water is actually doing my teeth a favor.
You got it. And just like with your overall diet, focusing on whole, unprocessed foods like fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins gives your mouth the nutrients it needs to stay healthy.
It all comes back to nourishing your body, inside and out. And while we're on the topic of good habits, I have to ask about smoking. It can't be good for your mouth, right?
You already know the answer to that one. Smoking is a major risk factor for gum disease, tooth loss, and even oral cancer. It's really one of the worst things you can do for your oral health.
So many of these healthy habits for your mouth just happen to be good for your overall health, too.
It's all connected. Taking care of your mouth is taking care of your whole self. It's not just about aesthetics, it's about overall well-being.
You know, before we started this deep dive, I thought it was going to be all about brushing and flossing techniques. But it's so much bigger than that. It's fascinating how something as simple as taking care of your mouth can have such a ripple effect on your overall health.
It really highlights how interconnected our bodies are, and the more we understand those connections, the better equipped we are to take care of ourselves.
Absolutely. But I have to admit, all this talk about bacteria hitching a ride in the bloodstream still has me a little freaked out. Earlier, you mentioned inflammation being a key part of that connection. Can you break that down a little more for me?
Of course, let's simplify it. Imagine your gums are like a border patrol for your body. When they're healthy and doing their job, everything is fine. But when periodontal disease sets in, it's like that border control weakens.
Okay, so that's when the bacteria can sneak across the border.
Yeah.
And into my bloodstream.
Precisely. And once they're in, they can travel to other parts of your body and trigger an inflammatory response. It's like setting off alarm bells in your immune system.
So my body is basically freaking out because of these foreign invaders from my mouth.
That's a great way to put it. And this chronic inflammation is a real problem. It's like a low-grade fire smoldering in your body. And over time, it can damage your blood vessels, organs, and even your brain.
So it's not just the bacteria themselves causing direct damage, it's also my own body's response to them.
Exactly. The inflammation is like collateral damage in the war against these invaders.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. And I guess that explains why gum disease is linked to so many seemingly unrelated health problems.
Exactly. When your body is in a constant state of inflammation, it creates a breeding ground for disease.
So getting back to the 2019 study we discussed earlier, if treating existing gum disease doesn't necessarily undo the damage, what does that tell us?
That study was a wake-up call. It highlighted that we can't just treat the symptoms and expect everything to magically go back to normal. It's about addressing the root cause, which is often chronic inflammation stemming from gum disease.
So it all comes back to prevention, right?
Absolutely. It's much easier to prevent a fire than to put one out after it's already spread. And that's why establishing healthy habits early on is so crucial. Brushing, flossing, regular checkups, those are the building blocks of a healthy mouth.
Those little things really can make a big difference, huh?
They absolutely can. And remember, those seemingly minor habits aren't just about your teeth and gums. They're about protecting your whole body from the damaging effects of chronic inflammation.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. Taking care of my mouth is like investing in my overall well-being. It's a powerful connection. That I never fully grasped before.
And the more we understand that connection, the more we realize that our oral health isn't just a cosmetic concern. It's a vital piece of the health puzzle.
Well said. But before we get too carried away with the science, let's bring it back to practical advice. Besides the basics, what are some other things people can do to optimize their oral health? What about diet? Any specific foods we should be eating or avoiding?
That's a great question. Let's dive into the delicious world of foods that can help or hurt your oral health.
All right, so we've covered the basics of brushing and flossing and regular checkups, but I'm really curious about how diet factors into all of this. Are there certain foods that can help or hurt our oral health?
Absolutely. Just like certain foods can benefit your heart or your gut, your diet can directly impact the health of your mouth. Let's start with the usual suspects. Sugary foods and drinks. They're a major contributor to tooth decay.
Yeah, that's not really surprising, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sugar feeds the bacteria in our mouths, which produce acids that attack our enamel.
Exactly. And the worst part is that these sugary treats often get stuck in the nooks and crannies of our teeth, creating a breeding ground for bacteria.
So it's not just about how much sugar we eat, but also the type of sugary foods we choose. Like a sticky candy bar is probably worse than a piece of fruit, right?
You're catching on. Sticky candies and sugary drinks are the worst offenders because they linger on your teeth longer, giving bacteria more time to feast and produce those harmful acids.
So what about healthier options? Are there any foods that actually promote oral health?
Absolutely. Crunchy fruits and vegetables like apples, carrots, and celery are great for your teeth. They act like natural toothbrushes, helping to scrub away plaque and debris.
Interesting. So snacking on those can actually help clean my teeth.
Exactly. And they're also packed with vitamins and minerals that support healthy gums.
Okay, so crunchy produce is in. What else should we be adding to our grocery list?
Dairy products are a good choice because they're rich in calcium and phosphate, which are essential minerals for strong teeth.
So cheese and yogurt are good for our smiles. I can get behind that.
And don't forget about water. It's not technically a food, but staying hydrated is super important for oral health. Water helps flush away food particles and bacteria, keeping your mouth clean and fresh.
It's amazing how all these healthy habits we're talking about overlap with overall wellness, eating a balanced diet, drinking plenty of water, These are things we should be doing anyway.
It all comes full circle. Taking care of your mouth is a fundamental part of taking care of your whole self. And as we've discussed, neglecting your oral health can have some pretty serious consequences for your overall well-being.
This whole conversation has been such an eye-opener. I used to think of going to the dentist as a chore, but now I see it as an important investment in my long-term health.
That's the perfect way to look at it. It's not just about fixing problems. It's about prevention and maintaining a healthy foundation for your overall wellness.
And who knows? Maybe in the future, dental checkups will become as routine as visiting your doctor. We'll have integrated clinics where our medical and dental providers work together seamlessly to keep us healthy, from head to toe.
Imagine a world where dentists are seen as key partners in our overall healthcare journeys, not just specialists for our teeth. That would be a game changer.
It would certainly make it easier to prioritize our oral health. But until that future arrives, we can take matters into our own hands. We can commit to those daily habits, brushing, flossing, making smart food choices, and view our dental visit as opportunities to check in on our overall health, not just our teeth.
Exactly. It's about empowering ourselves to make informed decisions and taking an active role in our own well-being.
You know, I have a feeling we've inspired quite a few people to step up their oral hygiene game after today's deep dive.
I hope so. After all, taking care of our oral health isn't just about a dazzling smile. It's about investing in a healthier, happier future for ourselves.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the fascinating world of oral health. We hope you found this exploration as enlightening as we did.
Until next time, keep those pearly whites shining. And remember, a healthy mouth is a healthy you.
See you next time.